We're going to be putting these plaquettes onto the sleeve. These are just the shapes that I've been working with for years. I don't know how I really got these shapes. Sometimes you'll see this one doesn't have a square like that, it's more straight. Doesn't really matter. We're going to start with the under plaquette. So this is right sides together, so there's right sides up. And I actually want to fold wrong sides together, like so. So these ones, depending on the style, you'll have to make sure that they do have to be mirror images. But in this case, it's really not going to matter if you flip that one around or anything like that. So you don't have to stress too much about that one, as long as at the end of the day, it's a mirror image. So then I'm just going to iron in half, and then I'm going to iron this to the center, not exactly to the center, maybe 1 or 2 mils from the center. And of course, if it likes to jump around like that, you can use the block so that it will be nice and flat. And we can use this other to just squash it. And then I'm just going to iron back on that half. Of course, on the wood, no steam. There we go. So that's the underneath one. Then the top one, again, these will have to be mirror images. So this I'm going to go in half. And then you see here, it kind of just continues there. It's maybe 3/4 centimeters. This is now black, so it's tough to see. It just continues up there. And then you can just measure with your eye. What is that? It's about 3/4 centimeters. So that's the same turn up that I want here. You can just check that this is actually looking reasonably straight. And then up here, I'm going to turn that in. Again, about 1 centimeter, maybe 3/4 centimeters. And then that portion I'll turn in to make this like a nice triangle, something like that. So you can see here from the back, it's not 100% straight, but what's important is that it looks like a nice, beautiful triangle. And usually for myself, I'll just pin this just to keep it in place while I'm working. Yeah, there we go. So we need one like that, one like this, and they need to be mirror images of each other. This upper plaquette, depending on the fabric, this is very thick, so I'm not going to do it. But if it's a thinner fabric, I'll put a piece of fuse just here in the center, just to give it some more stability. But this is quite a thick cotton, so we're not going to do that. Okay, so we've got mirror image, and we're starting with these under plaquettes on the right side. So again, these sleeves are right side together. So we're starting on the right side. I'm going to put this under plaquette there. Then here at the edge of the sleeve, I always leave maybe 1/2 centimeter, 3/4 centimeters, something like this. My stitch is 13 centimeters. That's just, the one I'm used to. Here I'm going to pin exactly on this line where it folds like that, because that's going to give me then a good guide of where I'm going to stitch. I'm going to pin all the way up to the top, and we're going to stitch about 1 centimeter from this cut. So we're going to stitch from here, following these pin lines, following that pin line all the way down to here and backstitch there. So backstitch, backstitch, and of course we'll do that on both sides. Mirror image. There we have it, stitched to about 1 centimeter and leaving a little bit here. This I do because the machine is always pulling. So I can then afterwards iron that straight or cut that straight. So then here I'm going to cut from the edge of my slit up to that point. I'm still going to maybe leave like 2 mils. I'm not going to cut all the way because that's when it's going to start fraying outside of there. Then I'm just going to iron that backwards. And here I actually iron it a little bit flat again because I want to manipulate this on the other side. Come to the other side. Bring this around. And then I want to iron this so that it's just covering those stitches. Like so. Then here, depending on how you feel emotionally, you can do a stitch in the ditch, and that will just catch it, which is why we iron it exactly like that. Or if you want to be safe emotionally, you can just stitch, just an edge stitch over there, because that will definitely catch it. And then you don't have to deal with the emotional trauma of skipping over here. So I think for now, we're just going to stitch, just that little bit of an edge stitch on here. And here you'll stop here, back stitch there where it turns around. Back stitch there, back stitch there. And obviously we can just give that a nice iron. Yeah, very nice. So then, this is now the right side where this has come through to. So now we start from the wrong side. This portion, it really doesn't matter, starting on the right side, the wrong side. If you want to stitch in the ditch, then you're going to have to start on the wrong side. So that's usually what I do. So this one on this side, and basically the same story. We're just going to stitch right next door to where this fold is, leaving a little bit extra there, maybe 1/2 centimeter. Just going to stitch along here. And again, the same story. I don't have a chalk here at this time, but just 1 centimeter, and you want it to be gleich with this, so that it's the same there. So usually I just pin like that. We'll stitch that one, and then the same story. When you're done there, you'll cut up to where you've stitched, and move this one this way. Stitch from there. Fabulous. So this one we're going to cut same to that stitch, but maybe leaving like 2 mils so that it doesn't end up how do you say, roll for 8. Yeah, so okay, then iron that one straight, flip it over to the right side, and then this little triangle iron up so long. Just want to double check we are. Yes. Yeah, I can often get confused with the right side and the wrong side me. So always have to double check everything. There we are. So this thing comes up to the right side, and you'll see here this little stitch there. Obviously we want to cover that. So we're just going to pull this so that it's a little bit over that. And just give everything an iron. See, this edge will kind of just squeeze a little bit over. There we go. Then we can see, okay, so here's the stitch. So we're going to have to stitch horizontal around here. And then we can flip over and see, you see, we want to stitch exactly on this edge where we flip the triangle in so that we can lock the triangle there. So that's exactly right. And the rest of this, we just want to make sure it's nice and straight. Stitch that up there. And then stitch the rest of this down. So we want to start here, back stitch exactly where this pin is, come over here, then around the edge, and one time down the edge of there. Easy peasy. And that one will obviously be the opposite. Yeah, and there it is. Fashion baby. So the last thing, obviously we can give that a nice iron. And then I'll just put a pin down here somewhere. And I just cut that straight. There we go. Then here we've got a 1 centimeter seam allowance. So you can go to the top, that's about 13 centimeters. Half of that is 6.5. So we want our buttonhole to be around here. Buttonhole is 1.5 centimeters wide, so it's 0.75 each side. And if I remember, yeah, like you measure 8 up from the bottom. But that's the logic behind it. 8 up from there is the top of the buttonhole, and it's going to be 1.5 centimeters wide. And this one on my machine, you cannot do with a buttonhole foot. You've got to do this with a regular foot. And while I'm here, I usually just mark that one, so I know where I'm going to put my button at the end of the day. But that's that. Look at that. Super fash. Plaquette of high fashion and fabulousness. Awesome. And then, yeah, this stitch just catches that little triangle there. Yeah, very nice. This one without a buttonhole foot. I'm going to start at the bottom of the buttonhole. Obviously, I'm going to select my button, 57. I'm going to hold that cotton and just go a few stitches. I like to do maybe 4 stitches. So now I'm at the end of my buttonhole, but if I'm not, I can still go a few stitches, and I'm going to bump this to the back. You see there, it starts going backwards with a straight stitch. Backwards, 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 and here we're at the back of the buttonhole. So here I'm going to bump it forward because now I want to go forward. You see it's going to do that bar tack. It's going to come forward with a zigzag, and you just have to help it along. Here I am at the front of the buttonhole. So now I want to go backwards, so I'm going to push backwards. And there it's going with a straight stitch. Going back. There I am at the back of the buttonhole. So again, pushing forward so that I can come forward. Doing a zigzag. And all the way to the front of the buttonhole, and then pressing back so that I can do the bar tack. Just do one more for funsies. Where is this? Okay. Again, I can start anywhere around the middle-ish and go a few stitches by hand just to make sure everything's locked in place. I can go forward until I get to the front, press back so I can go backwards. I'm going to get to the back and then push forward so I can go forward. Going to do the bar tack. Going to do the zigzag. At the front, I'm going to push back so I can go back. There's doing the straight stitch. And you do have to help it along. It's not going to go so smoothly on its own. At the back, I push forwards, do the zigzag. And here I am at the front, pushing back. And there's my bar chain. Good, Gile. Fabulous.